Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Joyce Mallon Smith. I'm with Education Development Center in Newton, Massachusetts. This is Gordon Snyder, whom you all probably know. Okay. Gordon, you're with?
Even though it says Waco, I'm with Ontech in Waco. I live in Massachusetts.
So Gordon and I are co-PIs of a project funded by ATE called the New Media Technician Project. And one of the reasons why we put this together is that we combined our interests, Gordon's in social media, mine in workforce development, because we realized that when technicians leave school, I don't know of any technicians who only have one job, and that job was working for someone else. Every technician I've ever known has their own job on the side. They have their own small business they're trying to develop and trying to build their own reputation in the field. We developed this project for actually two reasons. One was to meet the needs of those technicians in this very highly competitive society. People need to have some way of developing a reputation and having an advantage with customers and with suppliers. And social media, we found, has been a very powerful tool to do that. I want to just show a quick example of, and I know this is not a technical field, but it's one I show all the time. This is a little donut shop in Buffalo, New York called Paula's Donuts. And they have a web page, they have a Facebook page, they have Twitter, and they do a fabulous job of engaging the community. I think they have, I didn't check to see how many likes they have on the page before that. Does it show it here? Yeah, they have a tremendous number of people who follow them all the time, and it's interesting to see how did they develop that customer base. And it's not just that they use social media, but it's the way they used it to be able to keep customers engaged. As a matter of fact, I don't know, so here's an example. I think one of them is Father's Day, saying, don't forget your father on Father's Day, buy him a donut. The other one was, it's the last day of school, celebrate with your friends, come and have a donut. She does things like that all the time. When, do you remember when I think it's the Walenda gentleman walked across the falls in Niagara Falls, how exciting that was? She set up a little kids swimming pool out in front of the donut shop with a plank in front of it, with cement blocks, and anyone who could make it across the plank without falling in the pool would get a dozen free donuts. I mean, all the things like that she advertised on social media that really showed us the power of this in building and engaging customers. And this just shows a little bit about how all of her stuff is coordinated together, and you can see that it all sort of fits. It all has the same look. So there was a lot about this that we wanted to find out more about. The second reason is not, the only reason wasn't to help students who are technicians. I've been a project director for 30 years, and it's occurred to me that I could use those same principles as I was trying to get people to know about my projects. If I wanted to build participation among faculty across the country, I do a lot of national work. If I wanted to get them engaged, how can I use these lessons to help build a better reputation, a better brand for the projects that I was working on? So I looked at this, and we developed this project not only to help technicians but to help ourselves. So when we go through the presentation today, I'd like to have you think about it wearing two hats. One is the faculty wanting to bring this into the classroom for students to use, but also for yourselves as project directors, as people who have a program in a college, a funded project, a school that you want to promote, and how social media can help you do that. What had me convinced is a couple of years ago I was running a very, very large project, and we wanted to increase webinar participation. We wanted to increase webinar participation. So we went back to this project, and we followed some of the methodology that we were developing to teach other people about. And part of that was developing and following what you call an editorial calendar. How many people here use social media in their personal lives, have a Facebook group? How many people use it for their school or their projects? Okay, how many people know what an editorial calendar is? I had never heard of that. I had no idea what it was. So when we learned about this and we developed the material that I'll share with you with these lessons, we increased our webinar participation by about 500%. We used to have participation over at an 8-year period of participation in our webinars, about 65 people that were registered, 65, 70 people. And when we implemented this the first time as a test case, we had more than 600 people register for the next webinar. I said, wow, I want to learn more about that, because I'm responsible for getting people engaged. This is not only going to help technicians develop a business, it's going to help me. So I'll share with you a little bit about the project. It was funded by ATE. It's focused on small business development. Oh, let me find it again. We developed a profile. We used. This is just advancing on its own, Gordon. This will be challenging. Okay. So what we did is we pulled together an expert panel of people who were social media specialists, and we asked them, what does a social media enabled professional need to know and be able to do? We developed a profile of that. And the first thing they did is they developed a definition of it. No, that's where I want to be.
Oh, you did.
Yeah. The first thing we did was develop a definition of what does it mean to be a social media enabled professional. Not a person like me who's only going to do part of the job, but what does that universe of tasks look like, and what would that job be if I were focused entirely on being a social media enabled professional? And this is the definition that they came up with. Again, having been a technical trainer for a long time, the key is in the verbs, so I just want to draw your attention to that. So what they said is a social media enabled professional builds, maintains, manages, and leverages online social networks to engage with customers, business partners, employees, and key influencers with the goal of building organizational success. And as you can see, that definition applies not only to technicians developing their businesses, but to us who are running projects and involved in schools and programs. So what they said is that what they came up with in the profile, if you can hold the profile up, Gordon. The profile is one of the handouts. It looks like this. The panel of experts is listed on the front, and on the inside you have all of the duties and tasks related to this occupation. They came up with, this is what it looks like. I had 35. If you don't have one, email me and we'll get them for you.
Yeah,
So-
we can send you electronically.
Yeah, we'll send that to you, if you just let us know. So down the left side of the profile, if you can share it if you don't have a copy, down the left side of the profile you see that the major functional areas of responsibility of someone who's a social media, a social technology enabled professional is to conduct research, create a network strategy, establish an online presence, create content to engage the community, manage their online presence, and engage in professional development. And again, this is what the profile looks like. Against each of those major duty areas, there are a series of tasks. And for each of those areas, we developed a set of rubrics, and this has been very important for educators. We developed a set of rubrics so that a set of rubrics will distribute the assessment guidelines over one of those rows for each of the duty areas. The one that I have as an example in your handout is on the back side. It should be on the back side of the poster, and looks like that. So the rubric was designed by the social media specialists so that the levels are skill levels. They're not learning levels. It's not like course 1, course 2, course 3. That level that says proficiency, the third level of the rubric, is the level that if you are employed in this job, here's what the employment expectations are for you in relation to that performance measure. So level 3 is what a successful employee needs to know and be able to do. Level 1 and 2 is just a way of moving up to that. So let me take a moment then and walk you through the lessons. These lessons are the lessons we developed through this funding, and they're available.
Hi, my name is Heidi Larson, and I'm working with Joyce Malin Smith, Joe Hippolito, and Mirza Ramich on the Social Technology Enabled Professional. To go along with our theme of social media for young professionals trying to grow their businesses, we designed our lessons in Google Sites. You can see we have a home site where people will be able to access all of our lessons, and we have the step lesson 1, using social media to establish and grow an online presence for your business. This is like the social media 101 for your business, and it has not only information on how to use social media tools, but how you plan your marketing strategy. The second one is establishing a social media network within your field. And this is more geared toward working with your colleagues in the profession to reach your client base more effectively and more broadly, and to collaborate with each other. And the third one is more internally focused. It's how you can use social media within your own organization to be able to better communicate and to better serve your clients. There are 3 variations of each of the lessons. The lesson with teacher materials contains everything that a teacher might need to work through the lesson. Basically geared towards students who are doing this independently. Either it's an independent project, or the teacher may not feel comfortable with social media and doesn't feel like he or she is able to really deliver guidance. And the third one is the problem-based learning. And this one is for teachers who want to give their students a challenge. In this case, they just get a scenario and they are asked to solve a question or solve an issue, and they can go off on their own, and this teacher can decide to give the students guidance or not, depending upon the purpose for which the lesson is being used. Each of the lessons includes information about the project itself, a guide to reading the rubrics, and Joyce may have talked about these a little bit before, and the background of the profile, so how this all got started. It has instructor guidance with step-by-step activities and information on assessing progress. Resources include background and additional reading, a glossary of terms that may be unfamiliar to the students, possible tools for the lesson and how to use them, and this includes a lot of templates, a link to the step lessons, and this. We have information on what the students may need to complete the assignments, and then we have, we're calling them activity suggestions. And again, it really depends upon what the teacher is hoping that the students will get out of the lesson, or what the students are hoping to get out of the lesson. But these are step-by-step instructions, and all along the way we include activities for them to do. We have guidance, we have links for them to go and find additional information, readings for them to do. So then if we go to the possible tools for this lesson and how to use them, and again, we're calling this possible tools because there are a myriad of tools out there, and these are just some suggestions to get them started. And for each of these tools, we give some information on where you might find your own help, and then we give some lessons or some suggestions, tutorials on how to set up groups, for example, and different kinds of groups. And then we also include examples for groups that have already been set up. We try to include as many as we can without being completely overwhelming. So that's it, and we'll hope you'll enjoy the rest of the showcase, and that we will be in touch to talk a little bit more about the project.
Thank you. So as Heidi said, we have 3 lessons: using social media to establish and grow your online presence. The second is to establish a social media network in your own field. And the third is knowledge sharing. I'll jump back in towards the end of the session. I have to tell you this is what I found most important about this work and these lessons, because I am a social media user in my personal life, but it's a whole different ball game when you're trying to do this for a business or for your institution. And I wanted to learn how to do that. So whenever we developed part of the lesson, if I didn't understand it, I figured it wasn't suitable for other people who were new to social media. what we ended up with, and that I found most valuable for me, and I'm sure that other people who are new to social media will find it valuable for them, is that each of the lessons that we have step-by-step activities. And each of, for example, the first activity when you want to learn about developing your own social network is to look around at other social networks that are like the one you want to have and see what they do. So having that as a first step is great, but what I found most valuable is developing a template that asked me certain questions. Who was the audience? What are they posting? How frequently are they posting? What kind of content is it? How are people reacting to that? How are they interacting? So that all of the templates we have in these lessons ask those kinds of questions that will help someone like me figure out what I'm supposed to be looking for, what I'm supposed to be asking. So the second thing I found very valuable about these lessons is the part about tools. I can use tools. I can use, for example, Facebook in my personal life, but finding a Facebook group, I had no idea how to do that. I didn't know why it was important. And if I did, what would I be looking for? So we went back into tools and we gave step-by-step instructions about how do you find a group, how do you look for it, how do you find it, so how do you use the technology in order to find this and work with it. And then once you do, then again another template, what am I looking for and how am I going to analyze that? How do I evaluate what's good and what's not good so that I can use that information to build my own network? So those are the things that I found very valuable about this, because I figure when I came into this, I'm a lot like most faculty people across the country where they use social media, maybe they dabble in it for their personal use, but have not used it to promote their programs. So I just wanted to share those two things with you. I also want to share one other thing. We're at the point in our project where we're entering the final phases. We've done pilot testing of the lessons. We're ready to field test them. So if anyone wants to try field testing them with your students in the fall, contact me and let us know, or contact Gordon. And also, if you want to pilot it yourself, if you want to field test it yourself for your program, that's fine too. Just let us know if you want to test it out to see how can I build and market my technical program in my school. Let us know, and we're setting up a special group of field testers like that. We're also, Gordon and I are also working on a proposal for the next ATE funding, where we're going to be providing projects and centers with customized technical assistance in using these tools to be able to promote their work. And if anyone's interested, we only have a limited number of projects we can take on, but if anyone's interested in being one of our partners in that, if you let Gordon or I know, there's enough time between now and when the proposal is being developed that we can cultivate and add a couple of new partners. So one of the other things I want to do now is to turn it over to Gordon to provide an example of what some of the training might be in helping people learn how to use social media. I'll have to send you a link right now because we've just done the piloting and we're ready to make them more publicly known for field testing. So if anyone wants to engage with us in any way, just send me an email or send Gordon an email. Put in that you're interested in pilot testing, you're interested in becoming a partner, or you just want handouts, and we'd be happy to do that. As a matter of fact, while we're talking, if someone has a notebook, if they could just send a page around and put your email address on it. I see you have paper over there. Can you do that? And put your email address on it and what you're looking for. We'll get back to you. And write clearly so we can read your name. Thank you.
All right. Again, I'm Gordon Snyder. I'm from, right now I'm working with the Optech Center and a few other centers around the United States. I was, or still am technically, the executive director of the National Center for Information Communications Technologies. We were funded back in 1997, and our center has been sunsetted. So technically we're done the end of August. So I'm still involved with the ICT Center. I have a little story. When I first started doing this, I first got involved with social media, specifically blogging, back in 1995. We were working with a faculty member at Midlands Technical College in Columbia, South Carolina, a guy by the name of Mark Wildermuth. Mark had been in a Mark had been in a motorcycle accident and was killed. So I wrote a little tribute on our website about Mark. This is before blog platforms were available. Blogs were just sort of starting. So I put that up there, and within a week I had all kinds of people contacting me from all over the world. Mark had been had gone to West Point, graduated from West Point. Turns out he was a field goal kicker on the West Point football team, and he kicked some big field goal to win some big game. I heard from his ex-wife. I heard from people he had served with in the Army from around the world. Heard from his mother. His mother actually took what I wrote and put it on the funeral cards. It was pretty powerful stuff. I know some of you remember Mark in the group here. He had been a racquetball player. He was ranked, very high, very, very athletic guy, very nice guy, sort of unassuming. So all these things we learned about him after he died, and it was because of this, because of Google, really. Being able to search content and find content, people searching on his name. He had a very unique last name, his spelling. So that sort of got me interested in this stuff, and at the time we wrote a little, Chad was just talking about JavaScript, we wrote a little JavaScript blogging platform. This is before there were things like TypePad or WordPress or Blogger, which are tools you can use now, just sort of like Microsoft Word to do this stuff. So we sort of wrote our little homegrown blogging platform and started blogging back. It's been almost 10 years now. And since I started tracking traffic, about 5.5 years ago, I think I started tracking. I'm up to around 3 million hits on my blog. Twitter's grown to 5,500 or so followers. It's been a pretty powerful tool, I think, for us. And John Reynolds here, the guy shooting the video, has put up a video channel. We get a lot of traffic on our video channel still. So I want to talk a little bit about this. These are some of the things that I learned. We put together this expert group. We had people from big companies, little companies. We had a social media strategist from IBM, for example, on this focus group. This team we put together to put this stuff together. A lot of small business people. So it was a very interesting group we put together. And we came up with, this is really good stuff, I think. So this is sort of what I learned from it. You really need a strategy, just like most things, right? You talk about recruiting, you talk about retention, you talk about connecting with employers and placing your students in internships. You got to go at all this stuff strategically. So I think we're used to working that way. Social media is no different. So it's really all about establishing a brand. One of the things I've been able to do with my social media, even though I wrote that first post, it wasn't anything technical. I think I've been able to establish myself as an expert in my field, in the communications field, and it's led to all kinds of people just connecting and all kinds of opportunities, not just for me, but for our students, for other faculty, lots of other people. So it's all about establishing a brand, establishing a solid brand. You want to make yourself sort of unique and recognizable. You want to be known as a subject matter expert in your field. I think that's very, very important. It's been my experience anyways. So you want to establish some value to others. If they need something, they want to understand something, they're looking for something, they know you're the person, your project, your center, you're the subject matter expert in this area. You can help people out. Now, what's your vision, your mission, your core values? These are other things. If you sort of look at this rubric here, this is what I pulled out of it again. What do you aspire to be? What do you hope to become? What's your mission? What do you do? What's your purpose? Why are you doing it? What are your core values? And these core values, are very important. Your organization's actions, how people conduct themselves on behalf of the organization in front of other people is all very, very important. And social media is a very important piece of that now. I think everybody realizes that. It's important for you, it's important for your students. Employers, you've all heard the news, you've all seen this in the news. I think employers look at social media right now before they hire somebody. They're out looking at what somebody's doing. You want to think about your target audience. Again, very important. Who are the people you most want to reach? And you want to figure out what's important to them. They really don't care about, I don't think I'd write a blog post, for example, about giving this presentation. But they do want to know about the latest version of wireless technology or something fiber optic related. I mean, that's the stuff that probably my target audience anyways is looking for. And that's valuable stuff to them. If I can take a big, long, 100-page, whatever, report and condense that down into 500 words or so, I mean, that's really, really good stuff to technical people in my field. You want to think about current clients, who your potential clients are, reference, all those should be included in your target audience. These are what you want to think about. What's your value to customers? Okay, what's your unique value that you offer your target audience? What is it about you that's unique, makes you different than other similar organizations? I don't write about any one business or technology or company. I write about what's going on in the industry as a whole and try to give a non-biased opinion to these things. And again, you try to pare it down, make it simple, make it basic, make it easy to understand, and short, concise, succinct. Mark Twain had some comment about I didn't have time to write you a short letter or something like that, isn't it? One of his famous quotes. Yeah. So that's really important. What is distinctive about your product that you offer? What makes people want it? What makes what you do stand out? And what kind of solutions can you provide to people if they're looking for something? What can you provide that maybe somebody else can't provide, or you can maybe provide a little better? Now it's all about marketing. In the end, it's really all about marketing. And my background's electrical engineering, not marketing. I always thought marketing was the place where students went when they flunked out. I don't know. Marketing it's a science. We had some marketing people on our panel. I have some very close friends who had very successful marketing businesses in Massachusetts. It's very scientific, actually. But marketing in the past, if you think about it, the marketers really decided what they wanted consumers to receive, assuming they knew what consumers wanted or needed. Anybody watched like Mad Men? Or, it's a very interesting show if you look at the position and the approach they took to marketing. That's not the way the kind of approach marketing companies are taking now. They're doing a lot of social marketing is a key component. The consumers are engaging with you, and they let you know what they want, and they take what they want. You're not just giving them stuff. When I was a kid, right, what do we have, 3 channels on TV, a couple newspapers? It's different now, right? It's completely different. You don't have to watch CBS, NBC, or ABC anymore. In fact, I don't watch them very much at all, to be honest with you. And they let you know when you're missing the mark, so there's feedback, mechanisms in this stuff. So this social marketing is very social. It's an interaction, it's a back and forth, push-pull, whatever you want to call it, instead of a marketer just pushing an idea out on the public, whether they want it or not. So what do you want people to be saying about you or your organization? When they talk about your organization, what do you want them to say? What are they saying currently? Are you listening? You can pick this kind of stuff up on social media. What can you do better to articulate your message? It's all feedback. A lot of feedback mechanisms are built into this stuff if it's used effectively. So you want to develop your strategy. So you've defined your target market, you define how you plan to reach them, and you interact with them. The way you do this, and one of the ways, this is again comes out of the rubrics here, is if you're just starting out with this stuff, just start following some people. Follow some people that are doing this stuff effectively. Watch what they do. Watch how they're doing it. You can poke around on Google and find out. If you're looking for example, we talk a lot about recruiting in some of the technical programs where there's lots of jobs, but there's just not lots of students coming into these programs. Some people at this conference here are doing it very effectively. Where's Chris? Is Chris here? No, Chris is doing another session. Some people are doing it very well. Take a look at what they're doing. You want to decide the best social media platforms to use for reaching your target audience. If you've got a lot of stuff that's very video friendly, I guess, video is a very effective tool. It's what a lot of high school kids, especially when they're trying to learn something or figure something out for maybe a physics class or a programming class, whatever. First place they go is YouTube. If you have children, you know what I mean. They're looking at this stuff. They're not cracking open their textbooks anymore. They're going to YouTube first. And then you decide the best social media platforms for lots of different reasons. So there's inbound and outbound traffic. Social media is social. Engagement is important. It's not just about putting things out there. It's also taking things in. So you want to monitor the feedback. So you hear people talk about inbound. That's feedback from consumers or referents. You're gathering new information and resources, learning about issues affecting your target audience, etc. If I'm going to write a blog, what do? I'm watching what's going on, and I'm picking something relevant because I know other people are interested in it. They're concerned about it. They've got a reason to look and search on that kind of content. And then outbound is distributing salient resources, marketing services and events, responding to questions, public announcements, just posting the different kinds of content on the different platforms. As far as defining boundaries, you want to decide on the types of info you want to disseminate. You identify the don't go there areas, like religion and politics are probably things to avoid. Have an ongoing dialogue about how to address concerns about confidentiality. You don't want to overshare, which a lot of people have a tendency to do. There's a lot of people call it noise. It's just kind of, I don't know. Everybody's guilty of a little of that, I think. You want to avoid inappropriate postings. Again, things like religion, politics, things that'll offend and get some of your followers and people that you want to attract upset with you, and other issues that could arise. You want to determine how you set your privacy settings, and that depends on the platform and how you want to use that platform. Facebook is, I wouldn't want to talk about Facebook, but it's a very interesting philosophy product, whatever. There's different social media platforms. These are just some of them that are popular right now. I don't have Instagram up there. Probably should have put that one up, but there's probably hundreds of them. And what you really want to do is when you first start, you want to pick one or two platforms. I recommend just one. And you want to use the opportunity to post to more than one platform at a time. If you pick one, like you pick, say, Twitter, which is pretty easy, right? You can just retweet an article somebody wrote or something like that. You can have it automatically feed into your Facebook account, your LinkedIn account. You can set these things up to auto feed. And then once you've sort of established yourself, you can maybe branch into another one. Blogging is probably the most effective tool, I think, but it takes the most time. It's probably not the one you want to start with. I'm kind of a big fan of Twitter. I use Twitter quite a bit for both disseminating, distributing, and also monitoring information. So pick one, and don't pick one that's going to take up a considerable amount of time initially. Each platform is unique. Some basic postings work for all. Links to articles and other web info. That's, again, good Twitter stuff. You can ask questions to stimulate discussion. You can distribute promotional information, photos, quotes. These infographic things are pretty popular right now. You can take sort of lots of information and then condense it into some sort of a graphical informational piece. Images have a lot of power. They really do. Images and video are probably the most powerful tools when you're talking about content. Content is king, and this is really, really important. The hardest part of all this is content. And if you can establish yourself as a subject matter expert, as somebody who sort of a go-to person, and it's not just other people in your field, it could be parents, it could be kids in high school teachers, whoever. This is somebody that understands their field. They have good connections, and the ability to sort of work with a student and step through a process, work through the educational process, and get a great job and get into a great career. I think this is very important for all of us in the academic world. So you want content that encourages engagement, creates loyalty. Don't try to be too smart with this stuff. Try to write it so a parent can understand it. A ninth grade student can understand it. That's if you can write good technical content in that way, it's really gold. It really is. It's very, very effective. You want to have a little fun with some stuff. Others more serious. I post a lot of pictures of, not a lot, but occasionally pictures of my little Bichon dog, and I get a lot of a lot of people like those. I get a lot of likes on them anyways. You want to follow a number of blogs or organizations. I'll show you some pictures later if you want. Our kids are both gone, so we got the dog now, so we're like becoming a baby. But yeah, the dog. Yeah, we're going to start buying clothes for the dog next. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, she has a Skype account. So you follow a number of blogs or organizations and then reshare their content. I mean, that's the best way to do it. And Twitter is really set up for that. If you've worked with Twitter at all, I think Twitter is a great place to start. It only takes you a couple minutes a day if you want to do it that way. Post one or two interesting pieces in your field, and you will develop. People will start following you. It takes a little time, but it'll happen. How often should you post or engage? You don't want to overpost. Facebook is pretty responsive. I don't know, the average person checks their Facebook account, I think, 18 times a day. 2 to 3 articles or other types of info a day is probably, it's a lot. You don't want to go double posting usually. Occasionally you can do it. Twitter, I think I try to do like 2 or 3 Twitter, quality Twitter posts a day. So usually I look in the morning, I look around lunchtime, and in the evening I try to post something. Again, don't overpost. People you get lots of followers. And the whole idea of making a hub, the website is still a critical piece. We haven't really talked about the website yet, but the website can be used as really an aggregate, as an aggregate point for aggregating all your social media content. All roads lead in and out. You should have social media buttons on your websites. You want to put links to the website on all your social media profiles, your Facebook, your LinkedIn, your Twitter, Instagram. You want to complete all the social media profiles with as much info as you can without being boring. You want to make it easy for people to find you wherever you are. LinkedIn is a very powerful tool for me if I want to find people. Most people have a LinkedIn account. Sometimes you send somebody an email, people get so much email, it gets lost. I know what happens with me anyways. I lose stuff all the time. But if somebody sends me a message in LinkedIn, I get right back to them. It's again, pretty unique. So getting an engaged following, you want other subject matter experts and colleagues to follow you. Providers and other community professionals. Okay, use that hub on your website again to put all your your social media links on there. You can do things like put comments on other Facebook pages or blog posts, engage in other ways. So you can start commenting. People will start looking at you if you post some intelligent, relevant comments there. contests and other promotions to engage followers. So my phone doesn't even take selfies. Post a selfie for the contest. Encourage others to share content, QR codes and things like that. Linking to social media pages on promotional literature. Some people do paid ads. I'm not a big fan of paid ads. I think you can optimize the social search engine optimization is a whole nother story. Getting Google to be able to find you and having your stuff pop up on that first Google page is very important. And you can do that with paid ads, or you can do it with by optimizing your content for the search engine. So we don't have time to talk about that, but that's something that again, we could do a whole session on that. Follow through is critical. You have to be prepared to live up to the expectations you create. If somebody asks you a question, you should answer it on social media. You want to develop a plan, a follow-up plan of action. You want to continually go back and look at your strategy, look at what's working. Use things like analytics, which we won't talk about here, but look at your data. What's working, what doesn't work, what kind of post works. You can look at your individual posts and see, okay, this one got more hits than this one. Why? Or this one I posted on Thursday, it got a lot of hits. I posted something similar on Sunday, it didn't get anything. So timing and there's a lot of different things you can look at with the stats. Google Analytics is probably the best tool to do that with. And you want to, in your organization, make sure everybody's sort of on the same wavelength, I guess. Use an optical term since I'm working with Optech now. So these are some references. We'll I probably should have links for those, but I don't. But we'll get the presentation out. The presentation will be available on the High Tech website, actually. So there's some good stuff here. And I'm going to turn it back to Joyce now. Sure.
Yes.
When you are doing the contract, obviously I have a personal Twitter account. Should you adopt a pseudonym or some sort of professional name for this?
I haven't.
Okay.
I have not. I believe in people argue with this, but I think it's important to show that you've got some personality and some you're a real person and not just a robot. Yeah. I think it's I personally think it's important, and that's worked well. There's some things I like. I'm very careful about what I comment on, and I'm always positive in my comments. You don't want to get into
And that's very interesting because I still have a personal Facebook page, but when people who know me professionally want to join it, I don't let them, because I know that I'll say things and I'll post things that are of a personal nature that I don't want them to comment on. It's my personal business. So I'm struggling with that as well as a new user. How do you make that difference and how do you make that distinction? So one of the things I do want to bring up, and you can probably see by the way I spoke about using social media and the way Gordon did, is that the projects that we're involved in really cover that whole learning progression around social media from the very beginning. How do I get started? What do I do? What do you mean by a group and how do I find it? So what is Twitter and how do I set up an account? So we follow that very beginning few steps all the way through to things like optimization and how do you get your site as the site that comes up on the first page of Google. So I think this is a very unique and interesting project and set of projects that we're working on to provide this range of support. I did want to give you an example, and you saw much of this in the questions that Gordon was answering on.
What time does it send?
No, we have 15 more minutes. Well, what time? Oh, it ends at 11. Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to just go right on because we've mentioned this already. Why don't we take some other questions? If anyone has any questions? Thank you, Gordon.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. So if no one has any question, I want to ask you a question. Based on what you've heard, what kind of support do you need to either get started or improve your social media? What would you like to see happen? What do you want access to? Yes.
Well, like our programs, we have Twitter, we have Facebook, we have all that. it's driving people to those. So how do we
How do you build
connect-
participation?
Yeah, so how do we connect with those people? Because a lot of our users are savvy enough to know how to get to all of those things, but getting the
So it's-
Facebook link out there and the
Yeah.
Twitter account and all of that.
So it's
that's
building
our issue.
participate, yeah, okay. Other, yes.
I was part of an industry group who would do checkups or diagnostics, just to kind of do an overall assessment and give some feedback. I think that would be very powerful for those of us who are kind of amateurs trying to,
So getting
Other-
feedback on the things that you're doing.
like, do's and don'ts and best practices, should I say.
Okay. Someone else? Yes.
Also, you talked about being able to engage and have it be participatory, and so maybe some more information and ideas on that.
Okay, so just so people can hear you, it's more ideas on how to get participatory engagement through your social media.
Right.
Anything else?
How do you gauge success other than people just liking it?
So how do you gauge
Very good
success?
question.
Yeah. How do you, okay. Anything else? Well, thank you. There's a paper going around somewhere. Oh, we have a couple of, just whatever papers there are, if someone could bring them up to the front, and we'll get back to you with some answers to your questions.
I'm G Snyder on
Yes.
Twitter. If you want to
Yes.
follow me. G.